Like the rest of Europe, the Balkans is taking steps to limit the impact of the conflict in Gaza on its own security. Officials across the bloc say they are concerned about the rise in attacks and an influx of migrants. And it's led many countries to announce tougher border controls. Starting October 21st, Italy reinstated its border controls with Slovenia. This was followed by Slovenia, which informed Croatia that it would restore checks at their border as well. Slovenia also introduced surveillance on its borders with Croatia and Hungary over the weekend. The measures will last for at least 10 days and may be extended if deemed necessary. Italy and Slovenia are among 27 countries that are part of the Schengen area, the world's largest free travel zone. Croatian Prime Minister Andrej Plenković says the return of border checks is not a sign of mistrust between EU countries, but of a changed security environment in Europe. We'll look at the future of the Schengen area in a moment, but we first have this report from Veljko Skenderia, who went to see the situation on the Croatian border.
Europe is closing rapidly. For the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic, some countries are reinstating border controls as a part of strategy to improve security against possible terrorist attacks. Like the most recent one just a week ago, when a gunman killed 2 Swedish nationals in a terrorist attack in Brussels, which prompted Italy to close the crossings to Slovenia. The suspension of the Schengen Treaty on free movement in Europe became necessary, and I take full responsibility for this, said Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Her government says Israel's attack on Gaza has increased the crisis hotspots on Europe's borders and within the Union. It didn't take long for the Slovenians to make the same move on the border with Hungary and also Croatia, which as of January 1st of this year became the guardian of the EU's eastern frontier. Zagreb considers these moves excessive.
Ponovno uspostavljanje policijske kontrole na graničnim prijelazima teško da može spriječiti terorizam. Ono može percepcijski djelovati da su sigurnosne mjere više i da su dignute.
And indeed, the controls at the border crossing between Croatia and Slovenia currently look more like a show than a serious check. There are no queues and traffic slowdowns, which is good for travelers.
Što se kontrole tiče, nije bilo nikakve kontrole, ljudi samo stoje i lagano se vozi, nikakav problem nije. Mislim da je to okej.
Zato smo prije krenuli jer smo pričali o tome na večeri i normalno da se čovjek uplaši, a protiv kontrole mi nismo ništa, nemamo se čega bojati. Ali ovo je sada veći kaos jer ljudi se zabrinjavaju sami.
This domino effect of closing the borders, which started from Italy, reopens the question of the meaning of the Schengen area, one of the most important values of the EU.
Ovo znači nije suspenzija Schengena, nego samo uvođenje određenih mjera sukladno Schengenskom zakoniku, član 28, ako postoje prijetnje poretku, ako je ugrožena unutarnja sigurnost. Prema tome mi ne možemo govoriti o suspenziji.
Some politicians say terrorists could sneak in among the thousands of migrants arriving at the borders of the EU in numbers unseen since 2015. As for Croatia, the number of illegal border crossings this year is 150% higher than last. About 60,000 migrants were registered trying to cross the border. All of them requested asylum.
Oni kao sada već registrirani i u europskim bazama podataka migranti, odnosno podnositelji zahtjeva, imaju sukladno europskim propisima pravo na slobodu kretanja i oni to pravo koriste.
It seems both smugglers and migrants are well aware of these EU regulations. Migrants try to enter Slovenia from Croatia and move further west using the 7-day freedom of movement. Zagreb says Slovenia reintroducing borders is not a case of mistrust towards Croatia, whose 6,000 border police force prevents the illegal entry of up to 1,000 migrants into the Schengen area every day.
Vjerujem da su sve ove mjere privremene dok se ne zaustavi ovaj sada pojačani ponovo migrantski val. Svaka zemlja tu nastoji zaštititi sebe, svoje građane, naravno približavaju se i evropski izbori, pa i to sigurno jedan od razloga zašto žele pokazati svojim građanima da čvrsto drže stvari pod kontrolom.
While Slovenia reintroduces border controls, back in Croatia, migrants have become a hot political topic. With the country headed for parliamentary, presidential and EU elections in 2024, it is almost certain that the migration issue will be used to score political points. In fact, it already is.
Za nas to konkretno znači ako ovaj proces se nastavi i ako granice prema Mađarskoj i Sloveniji budu čvrsto zatvorene pa i fizički zapriječene, a već sjećamo se i žica, da ćemo se naći u situaciji da u nekim koncentracijskim logorima moramo silom čuvati ljude koji tu ne žele biti.
Croatia shares more than 1,000-kilometer border with Bosnia and Herzegovina, and it is precisely this country that the Croatian president blames the most for the migrant influx.
To je operativni problem, to treba riješiti. Ja vjerujem da nitko u Bosni i Hercegovini na to što se događa, a događa se cijelo vrijeme, ne gleda s odobravanjem. I to je problem viznog režima koji Bosna i Hercegovina ima s nekim državama, odnosno nema s nekim državama, čiji državljani slobodno dolaze u Sarajevo, slete na aerodrom i onda se dalje idu u promenadu.
The answer, says Milanovic, is faster integration of Bosnia in the EU. And while in Croatia, politicians are competing to be the biggest sovereignist in the run-up to the super election year, we went to Bosnia and Herzegovina, specifically Bihać. Migrants live here in camps and dream of better days in one of the EU countries. One of them is Hamza.
I want to make a best future for my family. But you know, we're in Morocco, we live without any hope, any job, you know. I'm here travel for 4 or 6 months. 6 months.
Hamza's travel plan is seemingly simple, and he says he will try to achieve it regardless of how many times he has to try. And Croatia is just a stopover.
Croatia, next Slovenia, and finally Italy.
But the question is whether Hamza and countless others like him will ever succeed. Immigrants who try to cross to Croatia without success return here, to Bosnia and Herzegovina. And often they claim they return naked, barefoot, beaten and bloodied. It's because Croatian police are allegedly resorting to pushbacks, that is, deterrence by means of force. Croatia, of course, denies the accusations. Croatia is not the only country accused of pushbacks that look neither humane nor in line with EU values. Greece and Poland reportedly also resort to this method, and Hungary uses it quite openly, and the EU simply has no answer.
Od svih europskih kriza u zadnjih 10 godina ova migracijska kriza je najviše posljedica ostavila na Europsku uniju i teško se zemlje članice dogovaraju oko rješenja migracijske krize. Prvenstveno je tu problem sa zemljama poput Poljske i Mađarske koje ne žele prihvatiti kvotu migranata i ići prema nekom zajedničkom rješenju.
But paradoxically, anti-immigrant sentiment is growing stronger even though Europe is rapidly aging and seeing a shrinking population.
Postoji ta velika potreba za radnom snagom i znamo da od 2015. godine velik broj migranata koji je došao u Europu, koji se smjestio u razvijenim ekonomskim zapadnim sustavima je pronašao posao i u tom smislu ta radna snaga treba Europi.
But the rising narratives of right-wing and populist groups also threaten to change the face of Europe as we know it.
Možemo reći da će taj njihov pritisak s desna sigurno utjecati i na određenu radikalizaciju čak i umjerenih političkih stranaka u pogledu migracija, što onda posljedično može imati dodatnu radikalizaciju uopće političkog pristupa prema migrantima u europskom prostoru. To je jedan veliki izazov za Europu koja razvija upravo suprotne vrijednosti.
The challenge now for the EU is to show whether it can live up to those values. And until then, these people will likely spend yet another winter in camps, dreaming of a better life beyond. Veljko Skenderija, TRT World, from Croatia, Slovenia and Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Croatia sees the problem in Bosnia and Herzegovina's visa regime and says the deployment of Frontex should be accelerated, especially in areas where massive numbers of illegal migrants are headed. Let's bring in Jasmin Ahić. He's a security analyst and a senior research fellow at the Institute for National and International Security. Jasmin, great to have you on the show. First of all, will the deployment of Frontex on Bosnia's borders solve the issue?
Definitely, it will be one of the key elements, elements in which Bosnia and Herzegovina can fight really qualitative measures with illegal migrants in Bosnia and Herzegovina, especially taking the fact that in last 2 months we had a significant increase of entrance from irregular migrants from Serbia side into Bosnia, but it is still numbers that Bosnia and Herzegovina border service and service for the foreigners can cope with. So definitely the signature of the agreement and the ratification of the agreement for Frontex that only Bosnia and Kosovo don't have with the Frontex will be a significant force in time to come fighting the illegal migrants crisis.
Right. Bosnia's Minister of Security did say he will try to speed up the agreement with Frontex. We'll keep an eye on that. Jasmin, what do you make of an Italian intelligence service statement that the extremist groups from the Western Balkans represent a threat to European security?
Yeah, definitely. In the context of happening, especially in the Middle and Near East, and of course, taking the fact that Bosnia and Herzegovina, together with all other countries in Western Balkan, had a problem in last decade with terrorism. We cannot say it was not like that, but I think it's, I will say, sensationalistic and populistic information that is only bringing the oil on fire. If we see that the Bosnia and Herzegovina as an actor in anti-terrorist coalition was evaluated as one of the best actors in fighting against terrorism in last decade, this information in this time period something that is not helping because it is coming like in media, not throughout the official channels of security service, and then brings the pressure much more to the countries of Western Balkans, especially on Bosnia, taking into consideration the information and the fight that we had 10 years ago.
And what kind of an impact will the reintroduction of border controls following Israel-Gaza conflict have on the region?
The Article 28 of Schengen treatment and agreement sees that measures, but I will say that they are very flexible, and Bosnia and Herzegovina, following the measures of the European Union, took the oversight of its own borders in the Serbia and Croatia border control. So the effect is that we will maybe in that economic or transport sector had a bit of problems because it is the oversight and the control that is focused and emphasized on the country, third countries, as they say, countries of Western Balkans and Turkey. And maybe in that sense, we will have some kind of the problems, but the measures, having in mind two terroristic attacks that we faced last 2 weeks ago, are the good measures, and they will definitely prevent maybe security threats that can come from this region. But for the Israeli and Palestinian war and everything what is happening there, I think that some kind of overflow of illegal migrants or refugees from that region will not come to our part of the Europe.
And Jasmin, I have only 20 seconds left. What is the future of the Schengen zone after Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said its suspension has become necessary?
necessary, but in temporary periods, in periods in which we had 3 or 4 years ago, we had really restrict measures under the Article of 28 when we had COVID-19 and some of the terroristic attacks in the European Union. This is a flexible measure, and I think that it will stay just a time that is needed.
Jasmin Ahić, security analyst, thank you for joining us on Across the Balkans. That's it for this week. See you next time. Bye-bye.